Hi there, Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to share a card that I made for my nephew, and he's a big Nintendo Switch gamer, and I thought this would be a really fun way to make a card that I could put a gift card inside. So I'm starting off with a slimline card base. Basically it's about 3 3/4 inches by 8.5 inches. I just cut down a bunch of cardstock to that size at one point, and then I used the leftover pieces as layering panels. So I had a bunch of those on hand. Then I took a scrap of black and just kind of stuck it down in the middle. I'm not really measuring anything. I'm just kind of eyeballing it to look like a Nintendo Switch handheld game. And yes, I had to look up what those were, what they looked like, because I am so out of the loop when it comes to video games. And then I took a scrap of kind of an aqua teal color and added it to one end of the card. And I put a scrap of kind of like a crimson red on the other end of the card. So this is a great thing about modern design. A lot of things that are popular with the kids these days are very slimline, very sleek, and easy to replicate with your regular card making tools. So you don't need to have any special products for this, guys. I trimmed off the excess paper from the back using my regular old paper trimmer, and now I'm using a regular old corner rounder, although this is a pretty epic corner rounder. It's the Corner Chomper by We Are Memory Keepers. I'm using that to round the corners of my card to give it more of that game appearance. The card base was fun to make. It was easy, and it's a great use of those slimline cards and you can mail it right in a regular business envelope. So this tool here is a tool I bought so long ago when it first came out. It's the basic gray notch and die tool, and I had to have it, let me tell you, and it was expensive. And I am bound and determined to get my money's worth out of that darn thing. But basically, you can cut little notches and tabs with it. It's such a it's kind of a silly tool, to be honest, but I will tell you there's a little tab punch that comes with it that you could actually make little tabs to hold gift cards on the inside of the card if you wanted to. That's not what I did, but it is an option if you have that tool. Now I'm using regular circle punches to make the buttons for the little game. I keep wanting to call it a Game Boy, but it's not. It's a Switch, but you know what I mean. The little gamer doodaddy thing. So basically just a couple different circle punches to get different size holes, and I cut those out of just a scrap of black cardstock, and we're just going to paper piece them together. Nothing fancy. See what I'm telling you? Think of all the things in your life that you can make with your basic shapes, either your paper trimmers, circle punches, circle dies, that sort of thing. I mean, look around your modern world. You're going to find that you can do a lot of things with basic shapes. You know, it's just like drawing. You learn the basic shapes, and then you put them together to make more complex things. And I'm just using a little bit of white glue here. What this is matte Mod Podge, and I put it in one of the squeezy bottles from Dollar Tree because I have a really hard time with glue bottles, and I find that just works best for me. And then I just hand cut some other little buttons to match what I saw on the Google image of a Nintendo Switch. So I didn't have any modern game. I don't even know what modern game characters are, but I did have these cute robots from close to my heart that I picked up at a stamp show a few years ago. So I thought that would be fun to make the card with that, because I mean, what little boy doesn't like robots, right? You could obviously do any sort of stamping you want here. Characters to color would be really cute, or you could search a coloring sheet of somebody's favorite game and print that out and trim it to fit your card, and that would work just as well. So just be creative. If you don't have stamps, you definitely can find a free printable coloring sheet that will work well. And I'm just using some little gears and shapes from another stamp set. That was also from close to my heart. There's a person that sells at the stamp show that I go to that will have often like the older sets or like promotional sets, like really cheap, like $10 a set. And so I usually grab a few of those because they're cute. I like them. I'm using Ohuhu markers, and they just released a 320 set of their classic markers. If you're curious, I will link those down below. So if you want a huge assortment of markers, but you can't afford Copics, the Ohuhus are a really good option. And I find the bullet tips are really good when I'm on trying to color in tiny areas like this. The cardstock I'm using is Nina, and the ink that I use to stamp is Memento, and that's what I like to use when I'm going to use alcohol markers, because I just feel like it's the smoothest and it helps me blend the best. So when you get the cardstock, it's the Nina Classic Crest. Super smooth in the color Solar White. There are other cardstock. You can use whatever cardstock you have, but I will say that particular cardstock just seems to blend a little bit better when I'm coloring with alcohol markers. But use what you have. And I thought I would stick to a pretty basic primary color scheme here: red, yellow, and blue. And so I just choose a couple colors or a couple shades of each color, and I blend them together. Now, you got to be careful not to over blend on these tiny little areas because the stamped images are pretty small. So that's why I colored that middle tone but didn't go all the way to the edge, because I didn't want, when I put the darker shade, it to bleed out. So you got to be a little careful. That's kind of why I like using the bullet tips instead of brush tips on really small stamped images. Brush tips can do the detail just fine. It's just they put out so much more ink that you can get that over bleed, not because you weren't careful with your coloring, but just because more ink came out. So this is a marker for everybody, guys. You may prefer bullet tips, you might prefer chisel tips, you might prefer brush tips, and you can get markers with all configurations. You can get markers with brush and bullet. You can get markers with chisel and brush and chisel and bullet. Chisel and bullet is probably the most affordable version, but you know, get what meets your needs and meets your budget. So now I'm using some Gina K ink, just dye-based ink in yellow and red, and I'm stamping the gear randomly in the background. Now I'm probably overdoing it. You might not want to do this much stamping, but you know, when in Rome, I'm telling you, once I get going, I just want to add more and more and more. I'm definitely not a minimalist when it comes to card designs. I love to keep stamping and adding, and then it looked really kind of stark, so I went in with colored pencils to color these. And I use colored pencils because I know they would be softer and lighter than the alcohol marker and hopefully not compete with them too much. So I'm just using, I think I'm actually using I'm using a mixture of different ones: Arteza, Brute Fooner, Mark Art, whatever I have in the budget rack next to my desk. Actually, I like those because they're just they keep a nice sharp point, and they perform pretty well. And then I'm just going to mount that on the front panel there using some double-sided tape, and that's pretty much all there is to it. Now you can decorate the knobs with I can't remember what letters were on them. I did end up doing that with a colored pencil, a white colored pencil, and you can add shading to the knobs as well. I'm using a white marker to add some little shiny highlights on our robots, and I think that really kind of helps him pop and look a little bit more metallic. But I know it's a little crazy and busy, but I think kids like that, so you can do whatever you want. Now, making a little pocket on the inside to hold the gift card. Like I said, if you had that notch and die tool, you could use that to make little tabs to hold your gift card in there, but I figured this would be a little more secure. And I used my circle punch to punch a little divot in the center so that you could see the gift card and pull it out of the pocket easily. Now you could just use some double-sided tape around the edges to adhere that in, but since I have this superhero washi tape, I thought it'd be really cute to use that. And I am using scissors instead of tearing it, just to make it a little bit neater, because I think with something that's robotic, I feel like a cleaner, a cleaner, more graphic style looks a little bit better. And there you'll be able to slip a gift card in there, just like I am with this little scrap of paper. So you get the idea. And that's all there is to it. It's a lot of fun, and I think that any gamer would love a card like this, young or old, male or female. It's just kind of fun. So here you can see I'm using my Prismacolor white pencil because it's really opaque to put the X, B, Y, and A buttons, and I had to look at those guys because I wasn't sure. And on the other side, I couldn't make out what the buttons were on the other side, so I didn't dare to put anything on them. And I'm just adding a little bit of a curved line on the sides to make them look a little bit shiny. But that's all there is to it. It's a fun way to get those stamps inky and play with your supplies, and you'll make somebody else happy too. Thank you so much for watching. Please give me a thumbs up before you go. Until next time, happy crafting.